is, running it down on these niggas.
Sex, drugs, money, and murder, my nigga. You know how we did it, my nigga. Still be painting them bitches, my nigga. Ripping that raw and fucking your bitches. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. 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 Niggas, they never will hurt you. Niggas, they never will hurt you. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. Sex, drugs, money, and murder.
How the traps right, understand how to get that. Ran down on them niggas with a flip back. Knew I never seen another nigga live like that. I was still getting stacks back. Had to fuck around getting them packs back.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Bulletz Gotti. Y'all know I had to do a video before the year is out, man. I had to do one before 2024 hit. You know what I'm saying? The hardest working nigga in the business. You know what I'm saying? I had to put out this content. And I really want to talk about Chris Lighty. And I wanted to do this video because I was on a platform. I was on Clubhouse, and we was having a discussion about influencers in the 90s, right? In hip hop. And it was certain names, and like dudes wasn't trying to give Lighty his credit. And I said, and I also was on there, and I was telling people, I was like, oh, hold on, man. Chris Lighty was so much important to the culture that this man is one of the, I will always say, one of my favorite with Dame. I always say, like, my favorite, like, moguls in hip-hop is 50, Puff, Suge, Chris Lighty, Dame Dash, Jay Prince, Damon John. Nas is definitely one of those ones. And I'm going to slide in some my Benzino. Benzino is a guy I admire, and Master P. I'm not going to forget Master P. Master P and Irv definitely. D&Y, you know. These is dudes that I admire in hip-hop. Eric B. Let me not forget Eric B. Eric B is another one that I admire in hip-hop. People don't know Eric B did a lot of power moves on the low. He helped negotiate a lot of more. Him and Suge Knight was doing that whole getting dudes better contracts. Big Daddy Kane, all of them. You know, people don't look at Eric B as, and he found Jamie Foxx. A lot of people don't know he's the one that found Jamie Foxx, Eric B. You know, but that's another you know, here nor there. That's another story for another day. But I just want to get into Chris Lighty, because even when you watch Hip Hop Undercover, I'm like, damn, they're not even shouting out Chris Lighty. Like, they're not even putting Chris Lighty in this. You know what I'm saying? And I don't understand why they trying to, like, erase him out of the hip-hop history, because you have to look at it, right? This man had everybody as a client in New York City. This is a guy that started out as a dude from the streets, from the Bronx, you know, was part of an infamous crew in the Bronx. The Violators was running around with Red, you know, at the Latin Quarters in Union Square, you know, helping them out with the equipment and the records and everything, and coming in there, you know, being like what you call, you know, security, you know, part of the entourage. You know, when things popped off, when the dudes like B.O. and the dudes like Sugar Ray wasn't there, you know, the real Goonie Goons, you know, Chris Lighty and the team was there, and they was, you know, handling business in the Latin Quarter, you know what I'm saying? And he was really about that life. You know, a lot of people, it was the Jimmy Henchman story. They like to try to make Chris Lighty seem like, oh, this dude was like, he was an industry dude and he wasn't really about that. But people got to remember, Chris Lighty, he always tell you, he got his MBA in the streets, you know. He didn't go to, you know, he didn't go to school like everybody else, like, and got the MBA degrees and basically was like, you know, the other guys in the industry. This dude was networking with big corporations and getting impactful deals for dudes. Like, you could just look, a perfect example. I'll give you a perfect example. LL Cool J with the FUBU hat on in the Gap commercial. That's all Chris Lighty doing. Vitamin water deal. The Mountain Dew deal for Busta Rhymes. You know, the Adidas deal with Missy Elliott. Like, so much things that Chris Lighty did in the game. It's like, damn, this dude was so, like, impactful. Coming from the Bronx, you know, and staying true. Putting on a lot of underrated, underground talent. Helping getting them out there. The Red Cafes, the Gravies, the Cuter Kids, you know, the malshawns. Shout out to Lord Akim. You know, a lot of the crew, a lot of, you know, underground talent. Chris Lighty had his ear on and was putting them on, right? Chris Lighty was the one, I would say personally, him and Irv Gotti saved Def Jam. Nobody gives Chris Lighty and Irv Gotti they credit for saving Def Jam, because if it wasn't for Chris Lighty getting Warren G, Def Jam would have went down. You know, Warren G got them out of debt, but what people don't understand and don't realize, who was the one that got that situation? Who was the one that got snatching Warren G up? It was Chris Lighty. Chris Lighty did. You understand what I'm saying? What he did over in Relativity Records with signing Fat Joe and having Chi Ali and Black Sheep and Tribe, and the things he did with them as the role manager and then becoming the manager, you know, and how Baby Chris turned into the big dog Chris Lighty. You know, he changed the game, you know, even with the tunnel, you know, what he did, like him and Puff. I always say Puff and Chris Lighty is what you call visionaries, because they started in that club scene. You know, Puff started, Chris Lighty started. You know, Chris Lighty being in Nails and the Tunnel and Latin Quarter and Union Square. Puff, the same thing. These are guys that started in the club circuit and then went from the club circuit to the industry circuit. You know, Chris Lighty becoming the manager and Puff being the record exec. But both of these guys were, I would say, the biggest influence in my opinion in hip hop and just in the culture. You know, because when you really look at it, there's not that many, you know, executives, black execs did what Chris Lighty. And a lot of dudes will say, oh, you got Steve Stout. Yeah, Steve was cool. You know, Rush Management with Andre Harrell, because Andre Harrell started with him, and Russell was the reason why there was a Rush Management. You know, Andre Harrell was the one that was like, I would say, the brains of Rush Management. A lot of people don't know that, but he was the brains of Rush Management, right? But when you really look at Rush Management and then you look at Violators was so far ahead of Rush Management. And it's no disrespect to Russell, but it's just, they were so far advanced and so far ahead because artists was touching different type of paper being with Violators. Like the paper that they was touching being with Chris Lighty was like humongous. Like the deals that 50 was getting, the vitamin water, the Mark Echo clothing, the Reebok deal. You know, even though Steve Stout was a part of it, it was still Stout and Chris Lighty. You know, the vitamin water deal was beautiful. Just the way they market that. Everything that you see that happened, you know, in my opinion, the man was just, you know, a small man. And a lot of people don't know, he managed every big artist and act that you can name in music. And what I liked about Chris Lighty is that he marketed everybody. Like, when Winky Wright was under Chris Lighty management, he had Winky Wright in all the music videos, all the 50 joints, right? Like, the way he marketed shit was just like, damn, this dude is a genius. Like, he was a genius because he was so far ahead of the curve in hip hop that it was like, damn, yo, like, you know what I'm saying? He took the game with different, and a lot of dudes envy that. You know, when you got dudes like Jimmy and dudes like Steve Stout and a lot of them, they envy that. You know, I think a lot of that, the issues with Core Mega stems from, and Stout, was that Mega was signed to Chris Lighty, right? Fox was signed to Chris Lighty, right? So it was really an issue there because nobody was under the, even only Nas, I think only Nas and Dre was under the, like, the Steve Stout management and the track masters. So it's like, it was like a, you could see it was like tension in, you know? And a lot of dudes was jealous. Jimmy was jealous, you know, because this nigga had all the acts in New York City. You gotta look, he had all the acts in hip hop. Chris Lighty had all the acts. This dude had everybody under his management, right? Before everything went downhill, the Bernie Madoff, you know, scandal, and, you know, him being scammed and the whole Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme, you know, this dude literally had Puff, 50, Missy, Nas, Mary, LL, Busta. Ja Rule was part of it. Prodigy and Mobb Deep was a part of the whole Violator family. DMX, you know, Eve, you know, because Troy Carter was a part of Violators, right? It was so many people that you could name, and just in the industry that was a part of that movement. If you listen to the whole Violator, Jadakiss, Styles P, all these guys, Fab, all these dudes, they was all under that management and under that umbrella. And these dudes really had the control of the game. You know, and this is a dude, like I said, came from the streets of the Bronx, made it in the rap game, became the biggest motherfucking, what you call, like, I would say he was like what Ari Emanuel is to Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? And he just had the je ne sais quoi of really, like, the way he pushed, because it'll never be another Chris Lighty. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I think a lot of people, you know, want to be like the greatest hip hop man, but there's no, like, the only one I really see that had like the skills, there was a couple dudes that I see that had the skills, but there's nobody that could be a Chris Lighty, because this dude, and even with like Puff, right? When you look at dudes like that, like, those are the anomalies, man. You never see those type of dudes. I always say, like, when they did the hip hop undercover thing, I'm like, I got Bimmy, I got Dab, Haitian Jack, Big U, Trick. These niggas ain't the brains of this shit. These niggas ain't the Chris Lightys. We needed the Chris Lightys in here, the Benzinos, you know what I'm saying, the Shugs, you know, the Eric B's, you know, the Dame Dash. Like, these are the dudes that I say, like, the masterminds of hip hop, like the greats in hip hop when it comes to like what they did, how they, like, you talking about dudes that niggas let them go. They was under the management, then they ended up firing them. Like, I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? So when it come to, like, with Lighty, and I tell people, like, even with the whole, like, when niggas, you know, try to make Chris Lighty sound like, you know, because I've heard dudes try to, like, make him sound like, yo, he was a sucker. But if dudes really knew their history about dude, was no sucking him. He was a real thorough dude, you know, real official dude, you know what I'm saying? You know, nice with the hands, you know what I'm saying? And look, he was corporate thugging before niggas was really corporate thugging. Jay-Z talked that corporate thugging shit, but really, Chris Lighty was really corporate thugging, because soon as he motherfucking, like, he left the streets alone, and stopped with all the like the brawls and the fighting, and he just went straight corporate. Like the man just changed the game. He saved Def Jam. A lot of people don't look at this man saved Def Jam records. There's only two dudes that I always say that take the credit of saving that company: Irv Gotti and Chris Lighty. Because if it wasn't for Irv Gotti getting the DMX, getting the Jay-Z and the Ja Rule over there, that company was going downhill. If it wasn't for Chris Lighty getting a Warren G and saving that company out of debt, you know, it would, Def Jam would have been over. You know, you got to look at the masterminds of greatness. There'll never be a guy like that did what he did in the game. He was so brilliant. It's just his marketing and everything that he did with the clever marketing. Just the clever marketing. You know, what he did with 50 with the whole vitamin water thing was so strategic, because every G-Unit commercial and every time 50 was on TV promoting something, he had the vitamin water. You know what I'm saying? So Lighty was just so far ahead of so much shit. It's like, damn, this nigga was a fucking genius. And it's like, you'll never see a dude like that ever coming. And a lot of motherfuckers as managers, if you look at the hip-hop game now, a lot of these motherfuckers don't know what they doing. You know? You know? You know? A lot of these dudes, it's like, it's so fucked up how the industry could try to erase Lighty. Like, they'll try to erase his contribution to the game, because it's like, yo, I'm in a room and I'm hearing motherfuckers saying like, yo, I like him, but I'm like, yo, hold on, bro. Like, we talking about influencing the game in the 90s. And we talking about dudes that were power brokers. This man was the biggest power broker, because what he did with the LL Cool J shit was the biggest thing. He was a game changer. This dude went on a commercial and wore a FUBU hat, okay? That was a game changer. So just with the genius of Chris Lighty, you have to give him his flowers. People don't want to give him his flowers because he's dead and gone. I get it. He's gone. He's not here. But look at all the accomplishments he did. None of these dudes that you say are the biggest managers in the game did what Lighty did. None of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, Lighty's up there with Dame. You know what I'm saying? He's up there with all those guys. Like, he's top 5, top 10 when I think of moguls, hip-hop moguls, and I think of small business. Yes, you know, what a lot of people say, oh, you know, but the whole situation that happened to him, yeah, I get all that. But the man was strategic. You know, the way he died was sad. You know, the whole thing of him being in debt and everything because of the whole Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme situation and him losing the money that he did. And I also want to say is like, a lot of people wasn't keeping it real, man, because if they was, they should have supported that man. You know what I'm saying? He was going through, and look, that's how you know he was so much of a hustler, and he didn't let nothing affect him. That even though he was going through money troubles, even though he was still able to broke them deals. He was still able to do what he did to keep the lights on. Yeah, he went from having a mansion and living the life and had to, you know, go back to the Bronx and live in Riverdale. He was living in Riverdale, you know, to go back to live in the Bronx after you left the Bronx and you had the mansion in Jersey and the penthouse in Manhattan. Like, this man was living the life but he didn't let shit affect him, you know? And it's like, I understand why people can have suspicions about his death, because this dude was, before that, Busta Rhymes said he was partying and having a good time. So that was like one of the saddest things. And I think when Chris Lighty died, the whole rap industry died. The whole success and the whole, like, you know, what he did with talent and him knowing talent and him managing talent and him signing these dudes. You'll never find somebody like that know talent. Like what he did with Warren G and what he did with Tribe and what he did with all these other artists is just amazing. It's the same thing with Irv. You know, you'll never find these type of guys that come in the game and basically is so legendary that they done a lot of amazing things in the game, man. And he was one of those guys that did a lot of amazing things, you know. And that's what I respect about him is the love and appreciation for the game, you know. Love and appreciation. He did what, you know, everybody talk about rush management, but he took what rush management was and made his movement, Violators, bigger than rush management. Fuck Rush. No disrespect to rush management, but they didn't take it to the levels that Chris Lighty took it to when it comes to management. You know what I'm saying? And the whole Jimmy Henchman shit, that was a lot of jealousy. You know, Jimmy was jealous because this dude had all the big names. He had the Puffs. He had everybody. He had all the big names. And that offended a lot of people. When you got all the big names in the game, you're going to be offended by that. You're going to be mad that everybody is managed by your movement. Everybody that you see that's a manager, the Blue Williams, the Gobbies, you know, James Cruz and Nelson and all these dudes come under the whole Violator regime. Mona Scott. Everybody come under his regime. This man was what you call the creme de la creme of management. This is the guy that was like when you look at, you know, you watch the Entourage, you look at Jeremy Piven's character, Ari, right? You look at Ari, right? That's Chris Lighty. Ari is Chris Lighty. You know, Ari Goat, that's him. That's him. That's him. And that's what makes him the guy. Because he knows what to do. He was the guy. You know, what he did with 50 was amazing. He took 50 to amazing heights. And 50 is one of the greatest to ever do it, man. He took a lot of people to different levels. You know, how you think Uncle Murder got that warning record? You know, Mariah, he even had Mariah under management. You know what I'm saying? Mary, let me not forget Mary. Mary was under Chris Lighty management. So there's a lot of people under his management, and he just did a lot of big things that a lot of motherfuckers they just mad that they wasn't able to do it. I'm just keeping it real. A lot of niggas was jealous because, this nigga was one of the greatest motherfuckers that ever did it in the game. Ever did it in the game. And it's nobody that ever could say they did what Chris Lighty did, because there'll never be another Chris Lighty. There'll never be another Chris Lighty. You know, it's sad. Like I said, he went out the way he went out, and it's kind of like, damn, like, you know what I'm saying? What could have been if he never would have died? You know what I'm saying? What kind of more impactful things he would have did in the industry, because he was just, I would say, a dude that I admire in the game, because it's like, damn, this dude was just a beast. You know what I'm saying? And you could sit and listen to him talk and drop gems, because he dropped a lot of gems. You know what I'm saying? He had Big Pun, he had Fat Joe, he had all of these guys. You know, it's not that many dudes you can say that I say, in my opinion, you know, have done what that man did. You know, there's a lot of dudes that you can say in management, yeah, they was good, but he was the one that really, like, you know, took it a step where it needed to be, you know, because he had everybody. He had Cameron. He had everybody. Mace, everybody. Everybody was under that. Sean. You know, he just had everybody under his realm. Lauryn Hill, Nick Cannon. You name it, bro. Man had everybody. And a lot of motherfuckers just didn't like that he had everybody and he was successful at what he did. You know, I always say, man, the greatest minds in the industry, man, you gonna know who they are. You know what I'm saying? And the ones that don't get their flowers, it's like with Nas, man, he don't get his flowers. But I think that Chris Lighty deserves his flowers more and more because there's a lot of dudes, the way he was able to maneuver the system is just crazy. They had to change the whole music game system because of what 50 and Chris Lighty did. They had to change the whole system because of what Chris Lighty and 50 did. Just with marketing, just with the endorsement deals, they had to change the whole game up. Because the game plan that they was coming with was like, damn, these dudes is something different, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just, I always look at it in business, you know what I'm saying? A lot of dudes have to understand, you know, that in the industry, it's always, yes, it's about your music, but it's also about hustle. You know, a lot of artists doesn't become successful in the game because they don't have the hustle. And they don't have great management that's going to work for them. Okay? You got a lot of A&Rs that's not working for the artists. And they're not trying to find talent because a lot of them are bloggers. But when you understand the business, and this is a guy that didn't, like I say, he didn't get an MBA for business. And he was making more money and making big corporate moves in them offices that he was getting all type of endorsement deals for all his artists. They were becoming superstars because of the management that they had behind them. And, you know, that's how it is, man. Got to really look at it like that, man. It's all about who you got as your mouthpiece, man. It's like a lawyer. You know, Chris Lighty was one of the greatest mouthpieces in the game, bro. I always say, man, you know, they need to be mentioning him more. They need to be speaking about him more. You know, why is they doing these documentaries and they ain't speaking about this man? Speak about him more. You know what I'm saying? Like Hip Hop Undercover, I didn't understand why a lot of brothers was left out. You know what I'm saying? They want to talk about these dudes that come on, bro. I'm just saying, you know. But it is what it is, man. It's your boy Bulletz Gotti. I just want to do this video to give my thoughts on Chris Lighty, man. You know what I'm saying? And like all the things that they say about dude, and you know, and not give him his flowers. And a lot of these dudes, that's the big dudes, you know, the Eric Nixes and Troy Carters and the James Cruz and, you know, the Blue Williams and all these cats, man. They all come out of his regime. They all, Mona Scott Young, you know what I'm saying? All come out of that whole Violator regime. They come out of that Violator family. You know, without him, Yandy comes from that. You know what I'm saying? So without him, you don't get any of these successful power broker players because he was the one that was the visionary that made them great. You know, he was the visionary, the leader of the pack. And that's why a lot of people was jealous of Lighty because it's like, damn, this nigga just had it. He had the whole city. He had the whole city. He had everybody under his banner, managed by him. Henchman didn't like that shit. That's why him and Henchman got into a tussle and the whole shit that popped off. You know, 50 and him had their situation with the whole headstone, the whole original 50 Cent headstone situation. And, you know, that didn't end well. And then, you know, Lighty putting hands on Jimmy and giving him the business, you know, putting that work in. And you know, the whole, you know, the officers getting shot up, Buster truck getting shot up, Lighty car getting shot up, you know what I'm saying? All out of pure jealousy. Yayo, when he said what he said on Math, the nigga had hate for the nigga. Because this was a nigga that was a official nigga just like him from the streets. Because Lighty ain't no chump nigga. He from the streets just like Jimmy. That's what people keep missing. Lighty wasn't no civilian nigga. You got to remember, this nigga came in the game on some goon timing, goon shit. He came in the game as a goon that became a corporate thug. He was a gangster already, a street dude already. So he went from being a street dude that was a part of the entourage to now being a boss, a corporate thug. Before, like I said, before Jay-Z and all these other niggas was talking about corporate thugging, Lighty was doing that in the 90s. And he was extremely well in doing that. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say a lot of niggas hate on dudes, you know, and it is what it is, man. You know what I'm saying? Just like how dudes hate on Suge. You know, that man saved Def Jam records, Chris Lighty. They can't take that away from him. You know, if they ever did a documentary on Def Jam, they got to give Lighty and Irv they flowers. Because if it wasn't for Lighty getting Warren G, that company would have went downhill. If it wasn't for Irv getting DMX and Ja and Jay-Z, the company would have went downhill. Chris Lighty got, you know, Foxy Brown and Warren G over there. You know, these are the things that people don't understand. It's you gotta look at the smarts of the man. You know, the greatness of that man. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you know, it is what it is, man. You gotta give that man his flowers. You know, and this is a guy that was like the head of the tunnel security and all that, the head of the tunnel. You know, when you go to the tunnel, you had to go see Lighty. You know, the tunnel, the nails, you know, people don't know nails. He was, you know, a fixture in nails, you know, nails and fucking Latin Quarter Union Square. You know, this is a dude that came from the club scene, and from the club scene, he went into the corporate scene. You know, just like I said with Puff, they both come from the same realm. But like I said, man, we got to start giving Chris Lighty his flowers, man. I don't like the disrespect, man. You can't talk about the 90s or the 2000s without Chris Lighty. That is what it is.